All right, in this episode, we talk about riding the back leg.
And why do we use the 3 board for bench press?
All right, Brent Porcio, Stephen Godon here at the @TopVelocity #pitch tips show, baseball tips. Go to Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Ask your question at TopVelocity, #pitch tips, #baseball tips. We'll answer on the show. This is my really bad sunglass episode. I have my Jokley sunglasses that they're classic, they're priceless. If you want these, I'll sell them to you for like $100. They are really bad Jokleys. Cool, so we're out here. Bob Wheatley had his last bullpen before he goes off to spring. We got David Aardsma pitching today for the Blue Jays, so we want to wish the best to David Aardsma. A lot of health, good year for him, and let's get started with this episode. Hank the Tank asks, how do I stop jumping with lead leg and start to ride with my backside? Specific drills. Hank the Tank. Is it like, she's so good when it hits your lips. That is the hardest thing to do. I really believe it has a lot to do with leg power. It has a lot to do with mobility. So if you have great mobility, great leg power, you will ride your back leg longer. What happens is when you don't have a lot of leg power and you put all your weight back there and you start moving it down the mound and it starts abducting that leg and putting all that torque into that back hip, and then you got to power out of that position. If you're not explosive on your backside, you're just going to collapse and then try to get your arm going. You know, high velocity guys can still do that. They can still, barely transfer weight off their back leg and slam their front legs and get their upper bodies doing a lot of the work. But if you really want to be efficient, you want to be a Chapman guy, a Kershaw guy, a Sonny Gray guy, a Fernando Rodney guy. I'm just thinking really good back legs. Then you're going to have to get really explosive lower half. You're going to have the strength, you're going to have the power production to really be able to ride into that back hip and keep your weight loaded as back, chin behind belt buckle as long as possible. But studies show, pitchers, high velocity pitchers keep their chins behind their belt buckles longer. They put more torques in their back hip. They have more abductor strength in their back leg, so they have more leg power. They generate more ground reaction forces. They have more joint mobility. Their hips open earlier in the front foot strike. There's just so many studies that will come right out of what high velocity guys do back there really well. So I'm telling you, if you don't have the strength and power up front, or the explosive strength and power up front, it's just really hard to do, guys. It's really hard. And sometimes I even challenge with guys. I see guys who got a lot of power. They just don't have the mobility to put their body in those positions. So it really both go hand in hand. Specific drills, of course, would be any mobility work in internal, external rotation, abduction, extension, flexion, pretty much all the hip stuff. Any deep squatting, that's going to help build strength into those deep ranges where you really get into the hip capsule. Of course, clean pulling, deep clean pulling, power cleaning. Drills to actually train it and teach it, if you can even do it. Obviously all the med throws, target throws in 3x pitching velocity program, highly emphasize clicking the plates with the king of the hill plates, peaking forces, driving the hips through in the front foot. I mean, those are like the best ones to do. They're built around just trying to get your lower half going well. So triple extension on the back leg in those drills, and then you can work 2x after that, front leg extension. But, there's no better way to do it, those med throws and target throws. That's really what it's emphasizing. If you want to get more advanced than that, it's all the torsion throws as well. So that would be my recommendations. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just try to say, to get an idea of it, try to find someone who's similar to you in the pros and try to research, try to find out some of his performance measurements. There's not a lot of them out there, which is kind of crappy, but we found guys like Strasburg. I read an article on when he was in college, how he developed his athleticism. There's stuff on Chapman that we found out about how he beat Billy Hamilton in his 60-yard dash and has an insane vertical jump.
Noah Syndergaard back squats like 550.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of just gives you an idea of what you need to shoot for at your size, whatever it is, and kind of puts it into perspective. Okay, like maybe I just don't have the athleticism to get there, or maybe I don't have the mobility to get there, which is like another thing Brent was talking about. I think a lot of guys come into camp and are lacking tons of mobility, especially in the hips. They just tighten up over time, and the high velocity pitchers, it's being shown that they just have a lot of hip mobility. They're able to get in these ranges of motion and power themselves out that a lot of people just aren't able to do. So I would recommend that for you to learn how to ride the back leg and drive out of it.
Hey, but I'm glad you're asking that question, because that's what it's all about. Good for you. Try to conquer that. Try to beat that. Try to win that for yourself, because, most guys out there are just trying to figure out how to get their arms going faster, how to overcompensate, how to just not even worry about the lower half. And studies show legendary pitchers always say it. You got to have legs. You got to have strength. Nolan Ryan. Just look at Nolan Ryan's career. That's all he said. And look at Roger Clemens' career. That's all he said. So you're going in the right path, but it ain't easy. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do.
I thought Rachel's comment in the interview was cool too, where she was saying she's talking to everybody in I think it was the Houston organization, where she's talking about like leg power and how power comes from the ground up,
ground
forces,
reaction
forces, and they all say yeah, like, we agree, but then they just do nothing.
Right, because think about it. Baseball studies a lot of things. In baseball is the ball out of the hand, grips and location, and you spend a lot of time building your craft here, and then a hitter builds a lot of their craft here. But when the strength coaches come into this, they don't have those years of trying to locate pitches and spray the ball around the field. Their understanding is how athletes move, and they know athletes move through the ground, forces through the ground, quickness through the ground, foot contact time, force vectors, stuff like that. That's what they know. So when they come into this game, they don't have our understanding or our experience in the skill. They're just talking to you the way they would talk to an athlete. But that's relative. I mean, that's relevant. That's important. You got to listen to that because they're right. But you still got to do what you're doing, but you got to be able to apply the athleticism to it, which they're trying to give you.
Yeah.
All right, good question. What's the next question here? Daniel asks, what is the purpose of the wood when bench pressing? So Daniel, I'm assuming you're asking about our 3 boards. So we have these 3 boards. It's the only range I restrict you in. I don't even like saying I handicap you. But I have to do it because we throw so much. So we pattern overload the arm with a lot of throws. So it creates inflammation, because we throw 3 days a week in our off-season program. So it's only one that, we still do a flat bench. It's not like we're not doing flat benches. You'll see flat benches in the program. But it's the only one I got to be careful with, because you're close to most of us touch end of range in a bench press. But if you're weak and tired, that could strain or pull, and that's where we got to be careful. So it's the only thing we restrict a range, and that's why we do it, because we pattern overload that shoulder. We create inflammation in that shoulder. We beat the crap out of that shoulder. Now, same time too, I believe this is the only program you can bench press in the way we bench press heavy in an off season, because our throws are so lower body focused and force you to really overemphasize hip shoulder separation. The amount of wear and tear in your shoulder is, and plus because we use 2-pound med balls, is nothing compared to most programs. Most programs I see, they're doing the stem machines, they're doing the lymphatic pumps, they're doing icing or massaging, whatever they do in their off seasons, because they are abusing the crap out of their arms. That's why those programs can't lift a lot. That's why they see us lift and they don't understand how we're doing this. We're doing it because we use lower half mechanics and we don't overload our arms, and it allows us to build total body strength. It allows us to go in the weight room and even build the accelerators in the pec and the lats and the upper arm, upper body with heavy loads. But at the same time too, we're still doing a great job of us being able to get in the weight room and still perform. But we're going to be careful on one thing, and it's getting into those deep horizontal flexion, horizontal abduction ranges. We're just going to be a little careful with that 3-board bench, and it just is going to restrict. It's going to restrict how deep you go. Same time too, if you don't have a 3-board bench and you're tired here, don't go to end of range. Go just before it gets tight and go back up. But at the same time too, if you feel strong, you do want to start to push it. That helps with a little mobility, but you don't want to overdo it, and you're building strength in those areas where we generate a lot of torques as well too. Anything you want to add?
No, that's a pretty general question.
Well, that's it. Good question. If you have another question, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, at TopVelocity, hashtag pitch tips, hashtag baseball tips. Ask your question, we answer on the show. 2X, 3X camps coming up. Everybody excited. It's baseball season again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Hold on. Holla, we them boys. Holla, we them boys.